Daeho Kim rubbed his tired eyes and stared at the screen again. The numbers did not make sense. He had been working in the Galactic Council's Planetary Classification Division for 15 years, and he had never seen anything like this. The file showed Earth, a small blue planet in the outer rim of the galaxy. According to the official records, Earth was a Class 13 Deathworld. This was the worst possible rating. Class 13 meant that no living thing could survive there for more than a few minutes. The atmosphere was poison. The radiation would kill you instantly. The weather was so violent that even machines broke down. But there was a problem. The same file showed that Earth had a population of over 8 billion beings called humans. Not only were they alive, but their numbers were growing every year. Daeho checked the date on the classification. It was over 200 years old. He looked at the population data again. It was updated just last week. 8,200,000,000 humans, and the number kept going up. This had to be a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. He pulled up more files. Earth had dozens of colonies on other worlds. Humans worked throughout the galaxy. They served in the military, ran businesses, and worked as diplomats. One of them even worked 3 floors down from his office. So Jin Park was having a normal day at Proxima Station until her colleague Vextar started acting strange. The tall, blue-skinned Vrexian had been fine during their morning meeting about trade agreements. But now he was staring at her like she was some kind of monster. "Are you feeling okay, Vextar?" Sojin asked. She reached across the table to touch his arm, checking if he had a fever. Vextar jumped back so fast he knocked over his chair. His large yellow eyes were wide with terror. "Don't touch me!" he screamed. "You could kill me with your bare hands." Sojin looked confused. "What are you talking about?" "I was just checking if you were sick." "Sick?" Vextar's voice cracked. "You live on a Class 13 death world. Your touch could be deadly. Your breath could be poison." Other workers in the office stopped what they were doing. They all turned to look at Sojin. She saw fear in their eyes. Fear of her. "There must be some mistake," Sojin said slowly. "Earth isn't a death world. It's actually quite nice. We have gentle spring rains, warm summers, and beautiful sunsets. My grandmother grows flowers in her garden." A small green alien near the water cooler fainted when she mentioned flowers. 2 security guards started moving toward her, their weapons ready. "Flowers?" Vextar whispered. "You mean those colorful death traps that release toxic chemicals to kill insects?" "Well, yes, but they smell nice and look pretty," Sojin said. She was getting worried now. Everyone was backing away from her like she had some terrible disease. The security chief, a large rock-like being called Thok, approached carefully. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us. There seems to be some kind of emergency classification issue." Meanwhile, 3 floors up, Daeho was digging deeper into Earth's files. What he found made his blood run cold. The original survey of Earth had been done by a team of Zalari explorers. They had sent a probe to check if the planet could support life. The probe's report was horrifying. The atmosphere contained 21% oxygen, which was highly explosive. The surface was covered in a deadly chemical called water, which could dissolve most known metals. The planet was bombarded with radiation from a nearby star. The weather patterns showed massive storms that could destroy cities. The geological activity included exploding mountains that spewed liquid rock. The planet was home to creatures so dangerous that they killed and ate each other just to survive. The Zalari had marked Earth as Class 13 and warned all ships to stay away. It was a world of death where nothing could live. But they had been wrong. Very, very wrong. Daeho found the first contact reports from 2 centuries ago. A human ship had arrived at a Galactic Council station, asking to join the Alliance. The officials had been shocked. These creatures claimed to come from the infamous death planet Earth. At first, they thought it was impossible. No one could survive on Earth. But the humans were real and they were alive and they seemed perfectly normal. Well, mostly normal. Daeho read the medical reports from the humans' first health checks. The doctors had been amazed. Human blood was red because it contained iron, a metal that was poisonous to most species. Humans could drink water without dying. They actually needed that deadly oxygen to live. Even more shocking, humans seemed to enjoy things that would kill other beings. They drank liquids that contained alcohol, which was basically poison. They ate plants that produced chemicals to kill insects. They even consumed something called caffeine, which was used as a pesticide on many worlds. The more Daeho read, the more scared he became. Humans were not just survivors. They were apex predators from the most dangerous world in the known galaxy. And somehow, everyone had forgotten this fact. He looked at the current human population across the galaxy. There were millions of them working on stations, ships, and colonies. They had been doing jobs that other species found too dangerous. They had been sent to worlds where the environment was considered challenging. Now Deho understood why. What humans called challenging, everyone else called impossible. His computer beeped. A message appeared on his screen. It was from the security office downstairs. They were holding a human diplomat for questioning about potential biological hazards. The human had mentioned something about spring rains and flower gardens, which had caused panic in the office. Deho realized he was looking at the biggest administrative mistake in galactic history. For 200 years, the most dangerous predators in the known universe had been living among them, and everyone had simply forgotten how terrifying they really were. He reached for his communicator with shaking hands. Someone very important needed to know about this, but who would believe him? The humans from the legendary Class 13 Deathworld were not just real. They were everywhere. Minho Lee had studied alien life forms for 20 years, but he had never been asked to investigate something this strange. The report on his desk seemed like science fiction. A species from a Class 13 Deathworld, living and working throughout the galaxy without anyone noticing how dangerous they were. His supervisor had been very clear. Find out everything you can about these humans, but be careful. If they really are from Earth, they might be more dangerous than we thought. Minho's first stop was the research station on Luna 7, where a human scientist named Heewon Choi was working on atmospheric studies. He arrived expecting to find some kind of monster. Instead, he met a small woman with dark hair and a friendly smile. "Dr. Lee, welcome to our station," Heewon said, shaking his hand firmly. Minho tried not to flinch. According to the files, humans were strong enough to crush bones with their bare hands. "Thank you for agreeing to this interview," Minho said carefully. "I'm doing research on human biology and culture." "Of course. I love talking about Earth. Would you like some coffee? I just made a fresh pot." Minho had read about coffee in the preliminary reports. It was a human beverage that contained caffeine, a chemical compound used to kill insects on most worlds. "Humans drank it for pleasure. Is it safe?" he asked. Heewon laughed. "Safe? It's just coffee. Here, try some." She poured a dark liquid into a cup and handed it to him. Minho took a small sip and immediately felt his throat burn. His heart started racing. The room began to spin. "Are you okay?" Heewon asked, looking concerned. "You look pale. Maybe the coffee is too strong." "I like it pretty bold," Minho gasped for air. "Too strong? This could kill most species, really? Huh. I guess humans have a high tolerance. Let me get you some water." While Minho recovered, Heewon told him about life on Earth. She described it like a paradise, but everything she said sounded terrifying to him. "The weather is amazing," she said. "Last month we had this incredible thunderstorm. Lightning everywhere, winds over 100 kilometers per hour, and the rain was so heavy you couldn't see 10 meters in front of you. I sat on my porch and watched the whole thing. So relaxing." Minho made notes. "Humans found Class 5 weather events relaxing. What about dangerous animals?" he asked. "Oh, we don't really have dangerous animals anymore. Well, except for bears, wolves, sharks, poisonous snakes, crocodiles, and big cats. But they mostly avoid people. My neighbor actually has a wolf as a pet. Well, it's part wolf. Very sweet dog." Minho's hands were shaking as he wrote. "Humans kept apex predators as companions. Tell me about human recreation," he said. Heewon's eyes lit up. "I love rock climbing. There's nothing like hanging from a cliff face 1,000 meters above the ground with just a thin rope to keep you safe. The adrenaline rush is amazing." "You climb cliffs for fun?" "Sure. And skydiving, deep sea diving, mountain skiing, whitewater rafting. Oh, and I'm learning to surf. That's where you stand on a board while massive waves try to crush you against rocks. Great exercise." Minho realized that human recreation involved activities that most species would classify as suicide attempts. After the interview, Minho visited several human colonies to see how they lived. What he found shocked him even more. On Kepler 442b, a world classified as barely habitable, humans had built a thriving city. The atmospheric pressure would crush most species, but humans walked around without protection suits. They had turned the methane geysers into a tourist attraction. "Beautiful view, isn't it?" said Do-won Kim, the colony administrator. He was standing on a platform overlooking a valley where toxic gas shot hundreds of meters into the air. Isn't this dangerous? Min-ho asked through his environmental suit's speaker. Dangerous? The air's a bit thin, but it's not too bad. Wait until you see the sunset. The methane makes the sky turn the most amazing colors. Min-ho watched Do-won breathe air that would have killed him in minutes. The humans seemed perfectly comfortable. On Proxima 3, humans were mining in conditions that had killed 3 previous survey teams. The planet's surface temperature reached 80 degrees Celsius during the day and the radiation levels were extreme. Yeah, it gets a bit warm, said Sung-ho Park, the mining supervisor. He was wearing only light clothing and a hat. But it's better than working on Titan 9. That place was really hot. Min-ho checked his records. Titan 9 was classified as a Class 11 Deathworld. Humans considered it a normal workplace. The most shocking discovery came when Min-ho visited New Seoul, a human colony on what was supposed to be an uninhabitable ice world. The planet's average temperature was minus 40 degrees Celsius, and the atmosphere contained deadly storms. But the humans had not just survived. They had built a city with over 1 million people. Children played in the snow outside, laughing as the wind that would freeze most species solid blew through their hair. The weather's been great this year, said Mayor Yoon Soo-jang. Only 3 major blizzards, and the wind speeds haven't gone over 200 kilometers per hour. Very mild winter. Min-ho watched human children building snow creatures in conditions that would kill trained soldiers from most species. They were wearing light jackets and seemed to be enjoying themselves. That evening, Min-ho called his supervisor from his heated, pressurized, radiation-shielded hotel room. Sir, I need to report my findings, he said. The humans are not just dangerous. They're impossible. They live in conditions that should kill them. They drink poison for pleasure. They keep deadly predators as pets. They do activities for fun that we would use as torture. How bad is it? His supervisor asked. Min-ho looked out his window at human families walking through a blizzard that was tearing apart his weather monitoring equipment. Sir, I think we need to reclassify our understanding of what makes a world habitable. These humans don't just survive on Class 13 death worlds. They prefer them. A Class 10 world would be too easy for them. They would get bored. There was a long silence on the communication line. Dr. Lee, are you saying that Earth might not be the most dangerous world they could live on? Min-ho watched a human couple holding hands as they walked through air that would freeze his blood in seconds. Sir, I'm saying Earth might be the safe world they go to when they want to relax. Admiral Taejun Nam sat in his office reading Dr. Min-ho Lee's report for the 3rd time. Each time he read it, he felt more afraid. Not afraid of humans exactly, but afraid of what would happen when the rest of the galaxy found out the truth. For 200 years, humans had been working quietly throughout galactic society. They served on ships, ran businesses, and lived on colonies. Most importantly, they had been doing the jobs that other species found too dangerous. Taejun pulled up the employment records. Humans made up most of the workforce on hazardous duty stations. They volunteered for missions to unstable worlds. They worked in conditions that required other species to wear full protection suits. The galaxy had been using apex predators from the most dangerous world known to science as cheap labor for dangerous jobs. And somehow no one had realized it. If this information became public, there would be mass panic. Every species in the galaxy would demand that humans be isolated or removed from civilized space. There might even be wars. Taejun activated his secure communication system and called Yoon Bi-jeon, one of his best intelligence operatives. I have a situation that requires your special skills, he told her. We need to contain some information before it causes a galactic crisis. Yoonbi arrived at his office within an hour. She was a professional who had handled sensitive operations for decades, but even she looked shaken after reading the report. Admiral, how did we miss this for so long? She asked. Because they seem so normal, Taejun replied. They're polite, friendly, and helpful. They follow orders and do good work. But they're also creatures that evolved on a world where everything is trying to kill everything else. What do you want me to do? Taejun activated a holographic display showing human positions throughout the galaxy. There were millions of them, scattered across hundreds of worlds and stations. We need to quietly move humans away from sensitive positions, transfer them to safer jobs where they can't accidentally cause panic, and we need to make sure Dr. Lee's research doesn't reach the general public. But their plan hit problems immediately. Every time Yunbi tried to reassign a human from a dangerous job, their supervisors complained. Humans were the only workers who could handle certain conditions. They were reliable, efficient, and they never called in sick due to environmental hazards. On Station Omega-7, the human maintenance crew was scheduled to be transferred to desk jobs. The station manager sent an angry message within hours. "You can't take away my human technicians," Manager Corvex wrote. "They're the only ones who can work in the reactor core during plasma storms. Without them, we'll have to shut down the entire station whenever the weather gets rough." Similar complaints came from dozens of facilities. Humans weren't just doing dangerous jobs because they had to. They were doing them because they were the only ones who could. Meanwhile, Jiwoo Kang, a human military attaché, was starting to notice that something strange was happening. Her security clearance had been reduced. She was being excluded from meetings. Other humans were reporting similar experiences. Jiwoo was not stupid. She had worked in military intelligence before joining the diplomatic corps. When people started acting suspicious around humans, there was usually a reason. She began her own quiet investigation. Using her remaining access codes, she searched for any recent reports or studies about human biology or capabilities. Most of the files were classified above her level, but she found references to Dr. Lee's work. Jiwoo also noticed patterns in the reassignment orders. Humans were being moved away from anything involving planetary surveys, hazardous environment work, or crisis response. Someone was trying to keep humans away from dangerous situations, but why? Humans had always done those jobs. They were good at them. The breakthrough came when Jiwoo accessed historical files about Earth's classification. She found the original survey report from the Zalari expedition. She read about Earth being marked as a Class 13 death world where no life could survive. Then she found the current population data, 8 billion humans thriving on their supposedly impossible world. Jiwoo realized what was happening. Someone had discovered that humans were living on a world that should have killed them all. Now they were trying to hide that information. She started reaching out to other humans in the diplomatic and military services. Carefully, quietly, she shared what she had learned. The response was immediate and unanimous. "That's ridiculous," said Captain Hyun-Sik Choi of the merchant vessel Blue Sky. "Earth isn't a death world. It's actually pretty nice. I grew up near the ocean. We used to go swimming in storms because the waves were bigger." "Swimming in storms?" Jiwoo asked. "Sure, great fun. Although my mom made us come in if there was lightning. Safety first, you know." The more humans Jiwoo talked to, the more she understood the problem. What humans considered normal, the rest of the galaxy considered impossible. What humans thought was fun, other species saw as deadly. But there was an even bigger problem brewing. Yunbi's investigation had turned up something disturbing in the historical records. Several civilizations had been written off as extinct after their worlds became uninhabitable due to natural disasters. But the disaster descriptions sounded familiar. Massive storms, volcanic activity, atmospheric changes, radiation increases, all things that would make a world dangerous for most species. But not necessarily for humans. Yunbi found records of 3 different colonies that had been abandoned after earthquakes made their worlds too dangerous for civilized life. The planets had been marked as hazardous and forgotten. But what if those colonies hadn't died out? What if they had just been cut off from the galaxy because everyone assumed no one could survive on their worlds? Yunbi presented her findings to Admiral Taejun. "Sir, we might have accidentally abandoned human colonies because we assumed they were dead." Taejun felt a headache building. How many colonies? At least a dozen, possibly more. Worlds that were classified as uninhabitable after natural disasters. But the disasters matched the kind of conditions humans seemed to prefer. The cover-up was becoming more complicated every day. They weren't just hiding the fact that humans came from a death world. They were hiding the fact that the galaxy might have been accidentally abandoning human colonies for decades. And if there were hidden human colonies on worlds considered too dangerous to visit, what else might they find? Taejun made a decision that would change everything. "We can't contain this anymore. It's too big and there are too many humans scattered throughout the galaxy. We need to bring this to the full council." "Sir, that will cause panic." "Maybe, but trying to hide it will cause something worse. If we're wrong about humans, we need to know. And if we're right, then we need them more than ever." Because Taejun had been reading the reports from the Outer Rim, strange ships had been spotted beyond the galaxy's edge. Unknown signals had been detected from deep space, and the preliminary analysis suggested that whatever was coming would be even more dangerous than anything the galaxy had faced before. If the reports about humans were true, they might be the galaxy's only hope of survival. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called when the first reports came in from the Outer Rim. An unknown fleet had appeared beyond the galaxy's edge, and their ships were unlike anything seen before. Worse, every world they touched became uninhabitable within hours. Council representatives from hundreds of species gathered in the Great Hall on Central Station. Fear filled the air as the reports grew worse. 3 colonies had already been lost. The enemy ships seemed to thrive in conditions that would kill everything else. Admiral Tae-Jun Nam stood at the podium, knowing he was about to change galactic history forever. Behind him, a holographic display showed the approaching threat. "Honored representatives," he began. "We face an enemy that operates in environments no known species can survive. Their ships function in radiation levels that would melt our hulls. They seem immune to atmospheric toxins that would kill us in seconds, and they appear to prefer worlds with the most extreme conditions." Worried murmurs filled the hall. Representative Vexkari of the Zalari Alliance stood up. "Admiral, what do you suggest? How do we fight an enemy that can survive where we cannot?" Tae-Jun took a deep breath. "That brings me to something we recently discovered, something that has been hidden in our files for over 2 centuries. He activated another display. It showed Earth, the small blue world in the Outer Rim. "This is Earth, home to the humans. According to our official records, it is a Class 13 death world where no life should be able to exist. But as you all know, over 8 billion humans live there, and millions more work throughout our space." The hall grew quiet. Everyone had worked with humans at some point. They were helpful, friendly people who did dangerous jobs without complaint. "What we didn't realize," Tae-Jun continued, "is that Earth really is a Class 13 death world. The humans aren't surviving there despite the conditions. They're thriving because of them." The holographic display changed to show images from Dr. Lee's investigation. Humans working in radiation that would kill other species. Humans living on worlds with toxic atmospheres. Human children playing in storms that could tear apart buildings. Representative Korvex of the Mining Guild stood up. "Admiral, are you saying that humans are more dangerous than we thought?" "I'm saying that humans evolved on the most hostile world in known space, and they consider it home. What we call impossible conditions, they call normal weather." Sung-min, Earth's representative to the council, had been sitting quietly in the human section. Now he stood up, and for the first time many representatives noticed that he wasn't wearing any protective gear. No breathing apparatus, no radiation shielding, no environmental suit. All this time, they had assumed his equipment was just very advanced. Now they realized he didn't need any equipment at all. "Representative, Tae-Jun said. "Would you care to explain the situation from the human perspective?" Sung-min walked to the center of the hall. As he passed other representatives, many of them moved back instinctively. They had never been afraid of humans before, but now they understood what they were really looking at. "Honored friends," Sung-min said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall, "I want to start by saying that nothing has changed about who humans are. We are still the same people who have worked beside you for centuries. We are still your allies and friends." He paused, looking around the hall at faces filled with fear and uncertainty. "But Admiral Nam is correct about our origins. Earth is what you would call a death world. To us, it's just home. The radiation levels you find deadly we call sunlight. The atmospheric pressure that would crush you we call sea level. The storms that would destroy your cities we call weather." Representative Thex of the Aquatic Alliance spoke up, his voice shaking. "Are you saying that all this time we have been working with beings from the most dangerous world in the galaxy?" "Yes," Sung-min replied simply. "But think about what that means. We have been working with you, not against you. We have been protecting your colonies, serving in your militaries, and helping to build a better galaxy for everyone." Yejin Lim, a human military strategist, joined Sung-min at the center of the hall. She carried a data pad with tactical analyses. "The enemy we now face operates in conditions similar to Earth," she said. "Their ships function in extreme radiation, toxic atmospheres, and gravitational fields that would destroy conventional vessels. But these are the same conditions where humans feel most comfortable." The holographic display changed to show tactical comparisons. Enemy ships thriving in radiation storms while Council ships were forced to retreat. Enemy ground forces operating on worlds with crushing atmospheric pressure, while Council troops needed heavy equipment just to survive. What you're showing us, said Representative Korvex slowly, is that humans are the only species that can fight this enemy on equal terms. Not equal terms, Yejin corrected. Better terms. The conditions that make these invaders strong are the same conditions where humans do our best work. The worlds they're conquering we would consider pleasant places to build vacation homes. The hall erupted in shocked conversation. Representatives talked urgently with their advisors. Some looked terrified. Others looked hopeful for the first time since the crisis began. Admiral Tae-jun called for order. There's more. Our investigation found evidence that several colonies we thought were extinct might actually be thriving human settlements on worlds we considered too dangerous to visit. The display showed a list of abandoned worlds, planets written off after natural disasters made them uninhabitable, but the disasters all involved conditions that humans could survive easily. We may have been accidentally abandoning our own people for decades, Tae-jun continued, because we assumed no one could live in those conditions. Representative Vexkari stood again. Admiral, what are you proposing? I propose that we stop thinking of humans as normal citizens who happen to be very hardy. I propose we recognize them for what they are, the galaxy's emergency response species, the ones we call when conditions are too extreme for anyone else. Sungmin stepped forward again. We accept this responsibility. We have always been willing to go where others cannot. But we want to make one thing clear. We are not conquerors or destroyers. We are protectors. We want to keep the galaxy safe for everyone, including species that prefer gentler worlds. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, an entire species was classified not by their level of civilization, but by their ability to survive and fight in impossible conditions. Humans were officially designated as the Galactic Emergency Response Species, authorized to operate in Class 10 through Class 15 environments where other species could not survive. But even as the Council voted, reports were coming in from the Outer Rim. The enemy fleet was moving faster than expected. They would reach inhabited systems within weeks, not months. The galaxy's most dangerous predators were about to go to war in their natural habitat, and for the first time since the crisis began, there was hope. Because when you come from hell, everywhere else is just another day at the office. 1 year after the revelation, the galaxy was a different place. Do Hyun-yoon stood on the command deck of the orbital station above Kepler 778c, watching human colonists establish the newest forward base in the war against the Kethmari invaders. The planet below was a nightmare world by galactic standards. The atmosphere was mostly sulfur compounds that would dissolve most species' breathing equipment in minutes. Acid rain fell constantly from black clouds, and the surface temperature averaged 90 degrees Celsius. Volcanic activity sent rivers of lava flowing across continents. To the humans setting up their new colony, it was a slightly warm day with interesting weather. Status report, Do-hyun said into his communicator. All teams deployed successfully, came the reply from Ha-eun Seo, the lead terraforming specialist on the surface. We've got the main habitat domes up and running. The geological survey team says the lava flows will make excellent natural barriers against enemy ground forces. Do-hyun smiled. Only humans would use flowing lava as a defensive feature. In the year since the Council's emergency session, everything had changed. The galaxy's most feared worlds were now humanity's domain. Places that had been marked as uninhabitable were becoming thriving human colonies and military bases. The war was going better than anyone had expected. The Kethmari invaders were powerful and dangerous, but they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed that conquering the galaxy's most hostile worlds would give them safe staging areas where no one could attack them. They had not expected to find millions of humans who considered those worlds prime real estate. Sir, incoming transmission from Fleet Command, reported his communications officer. A young human named Jinwoo Park, Admiral Tae-jun Nam, appeared on the holographic display. Behind him, Do-hyun could see the bridge of a council ship, but Tae-jun was wearing a full environmental suit while Jinwoo sat comfortably in his regular uniform. Commander Yoon, how is the new base coming along? Ahead of schedule, Admiral. The colonists are treating this like a vacation. I heard someone complaining that the acid rain isn't as interesting as the stuff they get back on Earth. Tae-jun shook his head in amazement, even after a year. He still found human attitudes difficult to understand. What's the tactical situation? Perfect, sir. We've established fire bases on 17 worlds the Kethmari thought were secure. Their ships can't operate effectively in our chosen environments. Turns out they don't like radiation levels that humans consider refreshing. On the planet's surface, Hayun Seo was having a conversation that would have horrified most galactic citizens. She was standing in acid rain without protection, talking to a group of human families who had just arrived to set up the colony's first residential district. The Eastern Valley has the best lava views, she told them, pointing toward a river of molten rock that was flowing past a site marked for a school, and the sulfur geysers in the north make beautiful patterns when they erupt. Great for the kids to watch. Chang Ho Ryu, age 8, was already running around exploring while his parents Soo-jin Kim and Hyunwoo Park discussed where to build their house. The boy had found a small crater where colorful toxic gases were bubbling up from underground. "Mom, Dad, look at the pretty colors," he called out, standing at the edge of a pit that would have killed most adult aliens in seconds. "Be careful, Chang Ho," Soo-jin called back. "Don't get too close to the edge." "Can we build our house where we can see the gas bubbles?" the boy asked. "We'll see, sweetheart. Your father wants to be close to the lava flows for the heat." Hyunwoo nodded approvingly. "Natural heating system. Very efficient. And the kids will love having the light show right outside their windows." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out on dozens of worlds. Humans were turning the galaxy's most hostile environments into homes, schools, and vacation destinations. What had once been forbidden zones were becoming suburbia. The effect on the war was dramatic. The Kethmari had expected to face desperate defenders fighting from prepared positions on safe worlds. Instead, they found themselves being hunted by predators who were more comfortable in extreme environments than they were. On Proxima 9, a world with crushing gravity and constant radiation storms, human marines were conducting operations that would have been impossible for any other species. They moved without heavy equipment, breathed without filtration systems, and seemed to enjoy the constant lightning that forced enemy ships to retreat. Captain Min-Soo Lee reported back to command. "Enemy forces are avoiding direct engagement. They seem confused by our ability to operate in these conditions. Several of their ships tried to use radiation bombardment against our positions. Our troops thought it was a light show and asked if we could get more." The psychological effect was even more important than the tactical advantage. For the first time in the war, galactic species were seeing humans as they really were, not just helpful neighbors who did dangerous jobs, but apex predators from the most hostile world in known space. The fear this generated was not directed at humans, but at their enemies. If creatures this dangerous were worried about the Kethmari, then the Kethmari must be truly terrifying. But if humans could fight them successfully, then there was hope. On Central Station, the Galactic Council had established its first Deathworld Operations Center. Representatives from across the galaxy came to coordinate with human forces and learn about conditions on worlds they could never visit themselves. Representative Vex Kari of the Zalari Alliance watched a tactical display showing human operations on 17 different extreme worlds. "I still can't believe they live in those conditions voluntarily." "They don't just live there," replied Sung Minu, still the human representative but now also director of emergency response operations. "They prefer it. My daughter is studying on Kepler 778c because she says the campus has better weather than Earth." "Better weather? That planet has acid storms and lava floods. She likes acid storms. Says they're more interesting than regular rain." The war was far from over, but the tide had turned. For every world the Kethmari conquered, humans established 3 new bases on planets too hostile for the invaders to hold. The galaxy's forbidden zones had become humanity's home field advantage. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy saw itself. For centuries, civilized species had avoided dangerous worlds, marking them as uninhabitable and staying safely on gentle planets with controlled climates. Now they realized that those dangerous worlds weren't empty. They were simply waiting for the right species to claim them. Chang Ho Ryu finished building his first sulfur gas snow fort and ran back to his parents, who were watching a spectacular eruption of toxic geysers paint rainbow patterns across the black sky. "This is the best planet ever," the boy announced, covered in substances that would have dissolved most alien life forms. His parents smiled and pulled him close as another beautiful acid storm began to fall, turning the evening sky into a light show that would have sent most species fleeing for shelter. To them, it was just another perfect day in paradise. The galaxy's newest and strongest defenders had found their home among the stars, and they were very, very happy to be there.